What is up, everyone? This is Fireside Yankees, and we've got an action-packed show for you guys today. A lot of rumors flying around the rumor mill. The winter meetings are just a week away, which is the perfect time for the hot stove to start heating up. Kyle Tucker, is he running out of suitors? Are the Yankees just going to have him fall right into their laps? Tatsuya Imai, we're seeing his suitors just fly off the board. Giants, they don't got the money. Blue Jays, they signed Dylan Cease. Camp Schlittler could add a secret weapon to make him one of the best pitchers in the game. And Baseball America dropped their top 10 prospects for the Yankees. We're going to talk about all of that and more right here on Fireside Yankees. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. We're trying to reach 30,000 subscribers. Help us reach that goal by doing those things, and we'd really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's just jump right into this. Let's start with And That's Baseball. How you doing today, my man? How's your Thanksgiving?
I'm doing well, man. I had a great Thanksgiving. A lot of eating, a lot of drinking, not much work getting done. That's perfect 4-day weekend for me.
And Chris, how we doing, my man? Big weekend, big weekend.
Dude, you know me, man. Huge weekend. Obviously, as an Ohio State, creator, it's been a thrilling, 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever you want to call it. But no, it's been exciting. I'm good, though. Everything was good. How about you?
It's great, man. Look, one of my newfound sports fan bases as of late has been whatever makes Dave Portnoy unhappy. And so when Ohio State started just taking the belt off in the snow in Michigan and just snapped the belt, started just bending over and just smack after smack after smack, it was great. It was great. Seeing the tweet from Portnoy saying, I'm not going to do the Big Ten championship game, it was chef's kiss, man. I mean, it was beautiful. I'm a true hate watcher in that regard. It's one of the few areas where I really dedicate myself to the hate watch. I don't actually watch a lot of college football. I was seated for that game. I was seated for that football game, and I got the outcome I was looking for. And, for the Yankees, I think, as we kind of switched gears here, they've got a lot they're going to be looking forward to this upcoming week, in the upcoming weeks, because the free agent market is, I think their top 3 guys on their board are all guys who don't really have known markets right now. And I think it starts with Kyle Tucker, who, has been linked to the Yankees, isn't really linked to the degree where you'd expect them to have a full-on pursuit at a $400 million price range, but that $400 million price range kind of coming into doubt. You see guys like Jeff Passan, instead of saying, hey, this is a $400 million player, it's, hey, this guy could get $300 million over 10 years, maybe more than that. The known suitors for him don't come off as strong suitors. Blue Jays, are they going to sign him and Bichette? I really doubt that. Are the Phillies going to go away from Schwarber to Tucker before Schwarber signs? I also am not sure about that. Mets, are they going to trade? Did they trade Nimmo to sign Tucker? That's also kind of a weird fit. There just isn't an obvious fit out there on the free agent market. And Chris, I'll start with you here. Kyle Tucker, what is going on with that market? I mean, if you're kind of evaluating this from an outside perspective, do you feel like this is a player who's going to have their market crash to the point where, the Yankees can swoop in and get him on a deal that I don't think any of us would have imagined him getting at the start of the offseason?
Yeah, man, it's really weird because, obviously, near the end of the year, you and I were doing the playoff shows, and one of the things that I was worried about was the Kyle Tucker market being hyper competitive, and then, obviously, we'll talk about Bellinger, but, Bellinger being, okay, this market's too competitive, we're not going to go above and beyond, we'll get Bellinger. Right now, it feels like they could kind of fall closer AAV-wise than I ever would have imagined, because it does feel like the market I once felt like would be there for Tucker isn't quite there. I had a pretty strong indication or feeling early that Kyle Tucker at least was really intrigued by the Yankees and intrigued by the bidding war that the Yankees could help him with. But I mean, honestly, there's been not really a huge market. So for me, it's kind of shocking, and it feels like one of the situations where him and, obviously we're going to talk about him later, were 2 guys who were high up on the priority list that I thought were going to have pretty competitive markets, might not be nearly as competitive as I once thought. And so it's kind of a bizarre feeling, and it makes you wonder, it's okay, there's the used car lot. That car is for a great deal. What's wrong with it? It's kind of where my head naturally starts to go. But, the market has not been nearly as hot as I thought it would be for Kyle Tucker, and there's no obvious frontrunner, there's no obvious suitor. So it's kind of a weird standstill right now for me. And then also you hear that the Yankees are going to prioritize Bellinger anyway. So, but that's its own separate discussion, which I think is more rhetoric based and more agent based. But I'll let all and that's baseball go.
Yeah, I think this is definitely, we're in the calm before the storm right now. Winter meeting starts in 1 week. I think we could be in a totally different place this time next week. Who knows? Who knows what's going to come out? Right now, the reports are still indicating that Bellinger is the priority. But based on Tucker's market, I guess there's probably a decent chance. I think everyone's kind of staring each other down right now, seeing who's going to break first.
It's the office
And
meme.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's pointing at each other. Everyone's staring each other in the eyes. It's a fucking Wild West stare down. And until someone cracks, that's when we're going to figure out who's going where. Because right now, I think it's still more likely we pursue Bellinger. But if Tucker's price starts falling into that range, if it's not that much more per year to sign Tucker, who's a better player than Bellinger, I think it becomes more and more likely.
And one thing I want to note with Kyle Tucker here is that it's not as if there was it's not as if you feel like this is a Blake Snell back when he signed his 3-year deal, or a Matt Chapman, where this was a player who you expected to get between $100 to $200 million, but there weren't a lot of teams who were going to be willing to swim in those waters. The big market teams weren't really in, and then you don't expect these medium market or small market teams to bite at that number, and that's how they end up falling to that price range. No, Kyle Tucker was a guy who was expected to get $400 million. Before the 2025 season, there were conversations of, hey, if he has a big enough year, is he going to get $500 million? Is that in play for Kyle Tucker? He is someone who I'm just stunned there isn't a bigger market for him. If you look at, let's say, the Blue Jays, if I was the Blue Jays front office, I would not sign Bo Bichette to a big deal instead of signing Kyle Tucker. I would just sign Kyle Tucker if I'm going to sign a big deal to a position player. No, even knowing that, I know that Andres Jimenez and Ernie Clement isn't the most sexy middle infield, but they're good defenders, and Kyle Tucker will more than make up for that with his bat. And then for the Yankees here, I mean, the fit is perfect offensively. Defensively, there was a concern there. And I remember when we did our free agency kind of preview or off-season preview, we talked about, well, it's really hard for the Yankees to get both a center fielder and a left fielder. They've got the center fielder. Trent Grisham's back, and he's back on a 1-year deal. It's kind of the ideal circumstance for them to bring in Kyle Tucker and then not worry about the payroll long-term, where you've got Grisham coming off the books. I think I did the math yesterday. They've got about $67 million coming off the books for 2027.
I was wondering who was going to do it.
I was almost going to say over $65 million just to avoid it, but I kind of have to do it. And then,
I'm getting too old for this stuff, man. I shouldn't be doing that.
Dude, the first week that was the thing, I couldn't keep a straight face when we did podcast, and I think it was Chris's first episode here, and he said 6'7", and I just kind of stared at Sam, and I started doing this over and over again. So it's a problem of mine, and I think, but you know what? I'm a grown ass man. I got this. But anywho, when it comes to Kyle,
dude, have fun. I think you're the youngest out of the three of us. Have your
Oh
fun.
yeah, by far.
is it actually? Damn, by that. Oh,
Yeah,
is
I'm
it
20.
actually by
I'm 24. I'm mid-20s now. It's over for me. I'm a
it's
geezer.
not over.
My uncle Big Bro, I'm 28, dude.
Hey man, we're all under 30. We're all young.
Yeah.
We're all young. Every single Kyle Tucker is even young. He's 29. So
Yeah, hey, Ben Rice just finished his rookie year. He's older than both you guys.
yeah, that's a good point actually. I think he's Sam's age, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong there. But yeah, I mean, speaking of age, like Kyle Tucker's 29. I really don't understand the lack of interest in Kyle Tucker in terms of player performance. Now, and I'm going to say I'm treading very lightly here. You have to wonder if the concerns the market has with Tucker are things we should care about as Yankee fans, and if the Yankees should seriously weigh those things. I'm going to start with, and that's baseball here. The lack of a market for Tucker, is that I think it serves as obviously a draw for a lower price, but how much of a deterrent is it for you? Like, what is the new number you're not willing to go to for Kyle Tucker, if there is one?
I mean, I feel the same way about Tucker as I did 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, 6 months ago. I think this guy's great. And I think it's more attractive to me that there's fewer big market teams in on him to drive the bidding up. I really think I see this as more of a circumstantial thing. Like, the teams that typically would be in on him, they have other priorities right now, like a team like the Dodgers. The Dodgers could go all in on him, but like at a certain point, there's diminishing returns when you have a payroll that high. And they paid so much in tax this year, and they already just won back-to-back. So, like, I don't know if it's worth it to them to go spend another $35 million a year contract. And then you'll get Toronto. They just signed Cease to that big deal, and now they're probably prioritizing bringing back Bichette just because he's a homegrown guy. So, like, who else really is there? Philly, I don't know if Philly wants to add another big-time contract like that, who's not a great defender in the outfield. I don't know if the Giants... I don't even know if Tucker wants to go to the Giants because their big-ass right field, his bat wouldn't play as well there. So, it's just like, based on the fit, we are definitely there. We are up there in terms of fit. So I don't... Like, the left field defense maybe would be an issue in Yankee Stadium, especially playing him next to Grisham. That wouldn't be great. But you're taking the best offense in baseball, and you're upgrading from Bellinger to Tucker, who's significantly a better hitter. I'm just looking at his stats right now. This guy, I'm going to go through his F-WAR by season since 2021. We got 4.9, 4.9, 4.9, 4.2, 4.5 last 5 years. And this guy's only entering his age 29 season. If he does that exact 5 seasons the next 5 years, that's worth like $200 million of dollar value. And after that, who knows? He'll probably be a solid right fielder / DH after Judge retires for a couple of years. And he's got the short porch and right. The bat should age decently enough there, even if his bat speed declines. I see this as a big-time upside move with a pretty high floor. The issue I have with Bellinger is that I don't think there's a potential that he ages into someone who's more of a league average player. Tucker, I think when he ages, will age from a great player all around to a solid player all around, and he'll still probably be a 120 WRC plus bat in like 5-6 years.
I mean, I'm right there with you, man. It's kind of bizarre because you're like looking around, like, okay, like if the market has like dried up to some extent, is this like a case where it's too good to be true? Because I think we still could see like a career best season from Tucker. In fact, I think you would see it at Yankee Stadium, and I think that his clock lines up so well with Aaron's clock. The older Aaron gets, you're still going to have a player in their peak, and it's like this. And I agree with you. Like it's really circumstantial, but even when it's circumstantial and it is this lead of a player, don't you think there'd be at least one out there to bid with? Now, with that being said, like I want him. I'm here for it. I think that he obviously best player available, best player on the market, and obviously like fits a need. And I mean, him on this team would basically like guarantee that the Yankees will go another year with having the top offense in the sport, and that's what I want. I want the top offense in the sport, and his bat is like dream come true. With the right field. I mean, we thought the Bellinger's bat was a great fit for Yankee Stadium, and it was. Now it's Bellinger's bat, but it's faster with more pop and just a better hitter right now. So, it feels too good to be true, and it feels like he's falling into the laps of the Yankees, and I'm trying not to get too excited, but like I'm just shocked that there's not like one obvious challenger, I guess. And without the one obvious challenger, I'm still like eyebrows raised that the priority is still Bellinger, I guess.
And one thing I also want to point out in regard to Kyle Tucker and the Yankees situation here, when we talk about what Cody Bellinger produced last year, he was a 5-win player. Roughly on Fangraphs, I think it was 4.9, Baseball Reference 5.1, 5-WAR player. The player who provides you the highest chance of doing that on the free agent market is Kyle Tucker. He's the guy who will, I think, walk into the ballpark and produce about 5 wins above replacement. And you talked about like he could play right field. I mean, that could happen in 2 years. Stan's contract is up in 2 years. You can have Judge play some DH. I think Tucker's frame actually works well for a first base transition if that ever wants to happen. He's tall. He's like nimble. He's not someone who you would need to be fast to play first base either. So I think he could hold his own there. I don't know, like something about Kyle Tucker and the idea of him playing for the Yankees and this world where they're able to bring in Kyle Tucker is one where I just can't find myself being mad at the offseason. If they get Kyle Tucker, how can I be upset? They have this game-changing offensive player. He's not a superstar in the capacity of a Juan Soto, but he is a top 10 hitter the last 3 years, top 10 hitter the last 5 years, top 10 hitter the last 2 years, whatever sample you want to use. He's a top 10 hitter, and that's the kind of player the Yankees should be all over. Now, the final question I kind of want to ask in regard to Kyle Tucker, because I do think these two are kind of at the hip. Is Kyle Tucker's poor market also an indication of Cody Bellinger's market, or do you believe that Bellinger will have a strong market despite what's going on with Kyle Tucker? We'll start with That's Baseball on this one.
The way I see it, like I just said, I think Tucker is very specific. He's a very limited fit player because he's in that $300+ million price range. So it's only the really rich teams that can afford him, and he's also a lot less versatile than Bellinger, so he can only really play left field or right field. So I think Bellinger's market will probably be a little bit more active because he has the center field ability, even the first base ability, and he's a little bit more athletic at this point. And he's also going to be probably half the cost total. He's not going to run you, maybe he'll run you 6-7 years, but he's probably not going to run you 8 to 10 years the way that Tucker might. So I could yeah, I could definitely see more teams, like the more higher end mid-market teams will probably be bidding for Bellinger as well. And then who knows, maybe the Mets will be in on him because he's more athletic and he can play some better defense. And I know that's definitely a point of emphasis for them based on their offseason so far. So I don't know, like I feel like people might be overthinking this. Tucker's the better player, and I think everyone knows that. but Bellinger is more attainable to more teams, and he's more versatile.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything in That's Baseball said. I guess I want to kick a question across instead of like repeating what he said. What do you guys both have to say to the portion of the fan base that would prefer Bellinger over Tucker?
It has to be.
Because I wanted to play devil's advocate here. I did want to, but I can't because I've been such a Tucker guy. But there is like a large, loud portion of the fan base that is kind of like echoing some of the stuff that we're hearing from, it's coming out of New York reporting about, better fit, we want him more, the price difference, this, that, and the third, like wants to be a Yankee, like all like good clubhouse guy. Like we're hearing all kind of the Cody Bellinger propaganda. Now I would love Cody Bellinger back, but I want Kyle Tucker more. But what do you guys have to say to that portion of kind of the think space, I guess?
So my first thought when it comes to the conversation about Cody Bellinger over Kyle Tucker, the only way that argument makes sense is if you're saying, okay, if I'm general manager Brian Cashman, I'm proposed a budget where I need to bring in, if I bring in Kyle Tucker, I can't do anything else. That is a argument where, yes, you would take Bellinger and you would then use the financial resources you have left over to go do other things. But if you're just saying, hey, even if I have the ability to spend over it, I'd rather have Bellinger than Tucker, I think you're just wrong. Okay. Like, I don't think again, Tucker's not Juan Soto, but Tucker is clearly better than Cody Bellinger. And I don't mean to be dismissive of another baseball opinion simply because it's an opinion, and I get that, but like Bellinger's just not, there's just no way you can argue Bellinger's better than Tucker. There's none. There is no way you can argue that Bellinger's a better baseball player. Tucker's a better hitter. He's a better base runner. The thing that Bellinger has over Tucker is defense in left field, especially. And he is more versatile. That matters. But for the Yankees, they have a center fielder. They have a first baseman. Bellinger's ability to play first base means not a lot to me, for the Yankees at least. Like, if they want to have a backup first baseman, you can go acquire one. And you can acquire one for not a lot of money. If you want to even bring back Paul Goldschmidt, like a $3 million contract, I don't care. I'd rather do that and have Tucker than bring in Bellinger, and part of it being, well, if Ben Rice goes down, if he goes down, we're not, like, that's a hit regardless. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's going to hurt you regardless.
It's just
Who's
like,
playing left field in that
we're
scenario?
We're just hearing a lot of the I'd rather have Bellinger, right? Like, I'm not
and
making
that
up.
doesn't
like,
make sense
I'm in
to
the
me.
ethos, and I'm just hearing a lot of it. And like for my stance, it was like, okay, like I'm okay with Bellinger if it's Bellinger but if you tell Chris Drew, like, hey, look, we can get into a situation where it can be Tucker I'm like, oh my god, like, let's go.
Yeah, I really don't think, based on how the markets are looking, I don't know how much more flexibility financially it'll give us to sign Bellinger over Tucker. If it ends up being a situation where they're within like $5 to $7 million of AAV, I'm definitely picking Tucker 10 out of 10 times. If it's if it's a situation where Bellinger's getting 23 a year and Tucker's getting 35, then maybe there's an argument to be made.
Okay,
but
so I'll ask you about the question then. What is the numbers gap? Not to cut you off, but like, what is the numbers gap that you're okay with?
I think if it's within 7.5, 8 million a year, I think you have to go pursue Tucker hard.
Okay.
I think it's whatever the evaluation for the league is on one win, essentially. Because I think Tucker is one win better than Cody Bellinger. And people might go, well, you care about one win that much? That's, in this scenario, 4 wins to 5 wins, let's say, that's 80% of the player. I'm getting 20% more production. That does matter to me. That matters a lot. That's the difference between winning the World Series and getting knocked out in the ALCS.
Well, well, think about the one win thing. One win, we don't play in a wild card game, like the wild card set.
I mean, we can even go as far, like, the impact of Roman Anthony on the series, or the lack of Roman Anthony in that series, was very loud. If the Red Sox have Roman Anthony, I don't want to play hypothetical game, but I don't know how that series goes, and I don't want to think about how that series goes.
Yeah.
And that works in the inverse. Imagine if the Yankees went for a different pitcher instead of Max Fried. How does the 2025 season go? How does the postseason go? I know that they didn't win his Game 1 start, but he also ensured they wouldn't have to use more of their bullpen than they needed to in that game. You don't want to. You cannot put a price, I think, sometimes on just acquiring a guy who will change your offense, like completely changes your offense, changes the way that you can't even, like, how do you pitch to Tucker and Judge? You can't throw a lefty in there. You're not going to throw a righty in there to try to counter Judge with a righty. Tucker's a high contact, high power, high on base guy. It's not like there's some crippling flaw where you can expose it. It's a nightmare because he's going to be disciplined enough to take his walks, and if you decide to be an idiot and throw him a fastball down the middle, he'll hit it 340 to right field and hit a home run.
Well, and
So-
hitters that hit in front of Judge historically see way more fastballs than anybody else.
Yeah.
If you care about fastball run value, I mean, Kyle Tucker's at 9 and Cody Bellinger's at 1. Like, that's what we're talking about. Like someone who against the fastball 500 slug, and the X slug is like 585 against a four seam. And again, like you would think that if he was here, he'd be hitting in front of Judge, and so he'd see a lot of those. So I believe in protection as well. So I just want to put that out there. Like
Always believe in protection. Always need protection. Always in the lineup.
Yeah, always. But my bad. I didn't mean to hijack the pod. Good.
I mean, I'm just looking at, like, what Bellinger just did for us this year was fantastic. He did everything we could have ever asked for him. He put up a 4.9 FWAR season. We traded for him. He was basically a salary dump for the Cubs to go get Tucker. And he put up a 4.9 FWAR season. That was fantastic. We all loved that. That's why Yankees fans want to keep this guy. He was great for us this year. But you look at Kyle Tucker, that's his floor over the last 5 years. His worst years, his only 2 years under 4.9 FWAR in the last 2 seasons, he's been on the IL for a certain amount of time. So over the last 5 years, he's done what Bellinger did this year or better on a rate basis. And if you put him in Yankee Stadium, you take him out of Wrigley. Wrigley was a terrible park for him to hit in. You put him in Yankee Stadium with that short porch, you could be looking at 35, maybe 40 homers. This guy could be a 150 WRC plus player. This could be a 5, 6, 7 WAR player in Yankee Stadium. So we know for a fact what Bellinger just did is probably his ceiling at this point. He's not going to return to the form he was early with the Dodgers. He doesn't have that type of power that he did during the juice ball years. So what he just did is the absolute ceiling that we're going to get. If we sign him long term now, hopefully he has a year like he just did. If we sign Tucker long term, we know we're getting at least a few of those seasons.
And again, it comes back to the same reason why you brought in Cody Bellinger initially was the ballpark. And that's the same reason why you should be willing to go out and get Kyle Tucker. Again, it's a matter of price, I think. I think we all agree that if it's $45 million for Kyle Tucker and $27 for Cody Bellinger, yeah, I think we'd all just sign Cody Bellinger and go with that because we understand the budget's not going to be unlimited. Despite what we would want it to be, that's not going to be the case. You can't spend over $20 extra million in additional payroll for a player, but if it's close enough, I'm sorry, you got to go after Tucker, and if you don't, like if Tucker signs for $35 mil AAV and Bellinger 28, and we sign Bellinger, I'm going to have a hard time not being pretty upset about it because, yeah.
I also want to say, I think something interesting I saw what we did with Fried in his contract. He made, I think, $11.5 million last year. He's making $11.5 million this year. And then next year he's making like $30 million. I think if we sign Tucker, obviously the tax hit would be the average of every year, but he'd probably get a similarly structured contract, yeah, because our payroll opens up a lot the following season, 2027. So he'd probably make something like 15 to 20 million next year, and then really start making the real money the year after. So I do think there's ways that this front office can work around signing Tucker for a few, if it's like $8 to $10 million more per year. So I really don't think if this is a real possibility and he's really falling into our laps like this, I don't think we should let a few $1 million per year deter us from going after him.
And I will say, I think Hal is genuine about the opportunistic thing. I don't think they just say that to say that. I think they genuinely believe, hey, if the right opportunity opens up, we will spend $330 million on a team. Because if the right situation calls for it, we'll do it. But they're not going to do it for, let's say, like they're not going to go to 330 for Blake Snell during the year that they traded for Soto. That wasn't going to happen. They didn't feel like that was worth it. They weren't going to go to 330 to bring in Alex Bregman on a 6-year deal. That wasn't going to happen. And I understand them not doing it for even $40 million a year, even though I think Bregman on a short-term deal would have been fun. I get it. I get it. But this is, I think, a little bit different. Now, another player who is kind of seeing their shooters dwindle down, and I think is a more realistic fit or realistic opportunity for him to become a Yankee, it's Tatsuya Imai. It was reported earlier today by both The Athletic and NBC Sports, and it's that the Giants are not going to be spending the money that's needed in order to get Tatsuya Imai. I guess it also works as like a Kyle Tucker suitor killer because they're not looking into long-term deals. So if you wanted to say for Tucker too, Tucker is also off their board. The Blue Jays just signed Dylan Cease. I imagine that takes them out of the Imai sweepstakes because they just committed a $200 million contract to a starting pitcher. Maybe that's premature, but I would consider that at least a pretty sizable hit to those odds. Chris, we'll start with you here because I know you're a big Imai guy. Do you feel like Imai is just kind of falling into their lap as well? I think it's more, there's a better chance that they're going to be aggressive there. what are kind of feeling with this market and your confidence level with the Yankees and their chances of getting Imai?
Yeah, I mean, you and I obviously talked off a microphone a little while ago about this whole thing. I mean, this feels like the most obvious Yankee of the offseason, right? Like this feels super, super obvious. We know that Cash wants to get into that market. We know that kind of the Japanese ad revenue is really important to them. We know that they want to reestablish themselves back with players from over there. And this one just feels like it's falling into their lap. This feels like the most obvious Yankee ever. I mean, kind of the same way we felt over the last couple of years with some of the pitchers that signed with the Dodgers. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I would be stunned, shocked, blown away, and also I'd feel bamboozled and lied to by people I talked to if he did not end up being a Yankee. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then, like, add the additional, like, kind of fuel that he's already provided to this fire about, like, wanting to beat the Dodgers and wanting to beat Yamamoto and, like, some of the stuff about, like, you know, like wanting to be the best, and it just lines up too perfectly. It feels like an obvious Yankee, and the more that these suitors kind of like eliminate themselves, I'm like, okay, like I think I can see it. Almost like the lead up to signing Max Fried. Now, obviously, the Max Fried thing was a little bit quicker given some of the Plan B stuff, but it feels like we're definitely headed that way. I mean, I don't know if you guys are as confident as I am, but it feels like get ready to learn New York Yankee.
Yeah, I think a couple of weeks ago when we talked about this, I gave Imai roughly 60% chance. I'm probably up around 80% now, because I just look at the other suitors that he has, and it's like, if the teams that have the need for him don't have the money, and the teams that have the money don't really have the need. Like, the Phillies aren't going to go out and spend money on another starting pitcher this year in all likelihood. But, like, a team like San Diego, who could really use him, and he probably would love to go there and compete against the Dodgers, they just don't have the money. Right. So, and if San Francisco's not willing to pay him, which who really knows for sure, maybe this is a smoke screen, who knows, whatever. But if they're really out on him because of the money, I really don't see anywhere else that's an obvious fit the way that we are. And Toronto just signed Cease, and obviously they're ready to spend, but it seems like they're probably going to sign one more deal, whether it's Tucker or Bo, and it'll probably be a position player. So the way I see it, obviously I've voiced my concerns about Imai. Like, I don't think he's going to be as perfect as a lot of people are making it out to be once he gets here, but his ceiling is pretty damn high, and I think he can work well with our pitching coaches, and if he should want to come here if he wants to win.
And I will also say in regard to Imai, and I'm at the territory. I'm not really like a big gambler just because I hate losing, and like so I lose a lot when I gamble, so I hate that. I'd put money on Imai being a Yankee. Like, I'm at that territory. I'd put money on it. And I'll also say this with Imai, and this is kind of what I'm hearing, and I don't. This is not like firm solid, which is why I'm just kind of dropping it in here. What I'm kind of getting is that Hal is a big pusher for this too. That Hal, this is not like Cashman going, Hal, please, bro, please let me get this guy. It's more like Cashman's like, hey, our guys like him. Our front office thinks that this is a pitcher who can really help us. And Hal's like, dude, I really want to get back in the Japanese market. I want this. I think the Yankees, there are too many things that they want to do that fit this. There are just so many things they want. They want to improve their pitching staff. I don't think there's another starter on the market they're going to give big money to. If it's not Imai, I think they just skip out on the starting pitching market almost entirely. I know that there are some trade opportunities out there potentially, but even then, I do question like the strength of their farm system in some of these deals, just because they did trade a lot of their depth at the deadline. Not sure how aggressive they're going to be in trading prospects this offseason. That would have to be something I have to kind of dig into, but I just feel like Imai's their guy. No QO, could stretch the AV, which they love doing, and give him like 7 years because that contract would expire when he's 34, I think. Yeah, sure, whatever. You want to pay a 34-year-old $20-something million a year in 2030-something? That's nothing by then. I mean, that's going to be the going rate for Frankie Montas's and Luis Severino reclamation projects by that point in time. So, I just think it makes sense. And as you mentioned, the suitors, and I don't even think this is a matter of the market not liking Imai. It's more so the Dodgers don't have a need for starting pitching, and Imai doesn't want to be there. The Mets, I think they're probably the team I would look at the most right now, just from the standpoint of need, fit, linked to him. I know Martino said it's not like a full court press, but still being linked and interested, opportunistic perhaps. Opportunistic teams get players. We just talked about the Yankees with Kyle Tucker. The Phillies, I don't really think they're going to be that in. The Red Sox, I would have actually had the Red Sox pretty good on this list if they didn't just trade for Sonny Gray. And even with the Mets going back to this, they have Senga. And it just came out that Senga doesn't want to go. And he approached the Mets and he's like, hey, I prefer to stay. If am I serious about not wanting to play with another Japanese player, kind of hard for me to see him going to the Mets over the Yankees, who quite literally have not had a Japanese player in over a decade. Like, have not signed a Japanese player in over a decade, have not had one in, 5 years now? His Tanaka was 2020, so, dude, it's been a while.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, I also think about the Mets. I think Stearns, he's not typically the guy that gives out those long starting pitching contracts in the past, but who knows, maybe things have changed. Maybe he's going to learn how to spend some money, which I think he needs to learn to do to become a good executive. But yeah, I definitely don't think there's anything obvious. Maybe the Red Sox, if they really go all in here into this rotation, because I think they could use another starting pitcher. But again, like I don't know if John Henry's willing to pay another $20 to $25 million per year for another starting pitcher after just moving for Sonny. Maybe they're going to be pursuing a Skubal next offseason once he hits the market, and that's why they traded for the 1 year of Sonny. So who knows?
And it's interesting, and Chris, I don't mean to cut you off here, but I just want to also add with the Red Sox.
Do your thing.
It also came out, they don't really want to go that much further beyond the first threshold. It's really funny because I think the team getting the most flack in the American League East for spending is the Yankees, and I'm confident they're going to end up with the highest payroll in that group. The Blue Jays are going to spend. The Blue Jays are going to be aggressive in spending, but like I don't know if you guys have seen this kind of like stuff on social media where it's like, yeah, they have more money than the Yankees. Am I wrong for saying, like, have the Blue Jays ever had a higher payroll than the Yankees in the franchise's history?
I don't think so.
No, sir.
It may be like in those early 90s years, it's possible because they were really good. The Yankees were not very good. I guess that's a possibility, but like the Yankees have never been outspent by the Blue Jays. And it's not like a Mets situation either where a new shiny owner came in and has kind of changed the culture. Rogers Center and that ownership group, Rogers in that ownership group, like they have tons of money. They actually have more money than the Yankees in terms of net worth, but I think people need to be very careful with using net worth to determine how much money you actually have. I think that's very much you are not very financially literate if that's how you feel about money or that's how you think money works. That is not your liquidated assets. It's not the assets. They did not get rich off of the Toronto Blue Jays. They got rich off of things that are not the Toronto Blue Jays and then are spending on the Toronto Blue Jays. So I think it's a little bit different. Not to say the Blue Jays aren't going to spend, but like, I don't know. I've kind of gotten this. The Yankees have increased payroll in each of the last 5 years. I'm someone who's critical of Hal, and I don't shy away from, like, when I think he needs to be criticized, I will say something. It just kind of feels weird that there's this energy of they're not going to increase payroll, they're going to cut payroll, and that has been a thing said for 5 years and has not been true for 5 years. The last time it was true, Masahiro Tanaka was a Yankee. The Yankees actually did have a Japanese player on their team. So, like, Chris, this is where I wanted to pass it off to you here. Like, why do you think that's the case? Why do you think people are so, like, far gone from what's actually happened versus what they think will happen financially?
I think a lot of it is frustration, right? Like frustration and like the lack of titles, and then like I've seen this kind of, not to bring my other work into this, but like from the Urban Meyer era, it's like the further you get away from something and the further you get away from winning, you start to sensationalize things, and then like kind of like change how the past went and how you start to rewrite history a little bit. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing a little bit, because I think the easiest thing to criticize Hal about is won't spend. And once that's said enough times, and then you compare him to like how George was, it becomes like the easy sticking point. And you hear narratives like this kind of run wild. I mean, it's the same thing with like, people talk about kind of, the Yankees playing in a little league ballpark. Like enough people say it and it'll stick across multiple fan bases. So it's really just like basic narrative driving, because we're moving further and further away from that 09 year and further away from like when George, was in charge and, Daddy Warbucks and like, give me everybody. Type of mentality. So I think that's all it is, Ryan. And people who, I guess, cover the sport, I think have a better pulse on it than some of the stuff we hear on social media.
Yeah, based on what I just looked up, the Blue Jays had a higher payroll than us in 1992, 1993, and 1995. And I don't think they've had one higher than us since then. So never in my life have the Blue Jays spent more money on payroll than the Yankees.
I want to also, like, that's an insane shout on I mean, it's not really that insane of a shout. It's pretty logical to assume that when they were good and the Yankees were not good, they spent more. That's actually, I can't even give myself really a pat on the back for that one. But no, none of us have been alive for that. It's not even just, like, not a single person doing this podcast has been alive for that. No one who's in rotation, Alex, Sam, they've never been alive for that. So, I mean, it's something where, again, I just think it's fear-mongering. It's kind of like at every deadline, it's the Yankees are going to do nothing, and then deadline passes, and they're one of the more active teams, or they had one of the better deadlines, and you're like, oh, wow, okay, they did something. And it just gets wiped away, that memory, very quickly. It's very short memory, and again, with the Dodgers having more financial firepower than the Yankees and the Mets having more financial firepower than the Yankees, that is like frustrating. I think it is something to be upset about. That's fair. I think it's fair to be upset that you're a Yankee fan. You've spent your whole life being the top dogs, and now, like, when Tarek Skubal hits the market, you're not even going to feel like you're the top team financially to get him. And that sucks. That's not great. But I think there's a difference between being upset about that and thinking you're not going to spend, right? I think that's like there's a big gap between being the Pirates and the Dodgers, guys. You know what I mean? There's a big gap between there's a big gap between being the Red Sox and the Dodgers. You are significantly better at spending at making sure you spend money than the Red Sox are. It's not even close.
If I was a Red Sox fan, I'd be so furious these past few years. Like, trading away Mookie Betts. Like, I could go on about... I know this has been said a million times, but I could go on about that forever. That's a ridiculous thing to do. And, like, John Henry is probably just as, if not more, wealthy than the Steinbrenners, based on he owns, like, Liverpool. Like, everything he owns with Fenway Sports Group. Like, he has so much money. And like you just said, if he's not willing to go over the first... much higher than the first threshold, then... It's like he clearly doesn't want to win as much as we do. So, I mean, that's perfect. That's good for us.
Again, it's one of those things where I think you have to do comparative analysis when it comes to spending. You can't you have to compare across the league. And that's for both, hey, they're not the Dodgers, and that may not be good enough to win to win at the rate you want to win at consistently. But in the same vein, you've got to criticize does not mean to be inaccurate. Just because you're critical and, to be inaccurate, the criticism, it just falls flat. That's how I kind of view it with that. Now, moving away from free agency and those kinds of conversations, I want to talk about Cam Schlittler, because Gary Phillips of the New York Daily News dropped an article where he did an interview with Cam Schlittler. It was a really fun article to read, and perhaps the golden gem of the news cycle, you could argue, for the last 24 hours is that Cam Schlittler is adding either a changeup or a splitter. We're going to start with And That's Baseball here, because I know you have you're very opinionated. I know you and Chris are going to be very opinionated about this, and I'm really excited to get into this. Talk to me about Cam Schlittler. What do you think of him adding a changeup or a splitter?
I mean, I think that's like pretty much the last bastion that he has to cover. Like, I know he's only done it for, 12, 13 starts so far, but you look at, like, I'm going to pull up his pitch chart right now. There's a big gaping hole in that bottom right quadrant for him. He does not have anything that dives down and away from lefties, and that's the biggest issue I see from him as someone who's watched all of his starts. He can get the righties out. He can go up and in with the four-seamer and then dive away with the curve and the cutter. But with lefties, it's really he just jams them in with the cutter, in with the cutter, in with the cutter, up with the fastball. And there's really no other option there. If you can develop that pitch that dies, that goes like the dead fish changeup that flops away from the lefty batters, they're gonna be waving at that thing all day. And I think we all saw it this year. There was definitely times where he got ahead in the counts to lefties and he just couldn't put them away. If he can add that pitch and start putting the lefties away, this guy can be a top 10 starting pitcher in baseball. I don't want to get that far ahead of myself, because who knows if he could throw it. Like, it's not like adding a pitch in a video game. You don't just, like, spawn in with it one day. Some guys just don't have the arm motion to be able to throw certain pitches. Maybe he'll never be able to throw a good changeup. Maybe he'll never be able to throw a good splitter without it being an issue for him. But if he can just throw an adequate changeup or an adequate splitter and only use it for lefties, then that just adds a whole other dimension that they have to look out for when they're up at the plate. So, I mean, this guy's already... He's not a complete product, and he was already pretty damn good this year. If he can add that pitch, there's not that much more he needs to do to become an ace.
I mean, doesn't that unlock the unlimited upside? And, like, isn't this also, like, one of the kind of the least surprising things? I mean, he was a guy that, obviously, not a lot of people had high on the radar entering last year, kind of got fast-tracked because of how good he was in the minor leagues, and then obviously got the bump up and pitched really, really well. But, like, when you talk about kind of the one hole, like, And That's Baseball said, it is right there. And for me, it's so funny because, like, beforehand, like coming up, like in college, he was a guy that was more of a pitchable guy, like pitchability mattered to him, that kind of like unlocked the velocity, which makes me feel good about like where him and Matt Blake could be, because I think that like he wants to be a pitcher's pitcher, and like him kind of discovering this velocity, it was something that I think it was important for the Yankees. Okay, we're not going to tinker it with during the season. Obviously, you won't. Young guy, been effective enough as is, and we really can't afford for him not to be good. But if he figures it out, Doug, like top 10, yeah, like we're talking about someone who, you know, has as a rookie, like given us one of the all-time great starts in the Yankee playoff history. We're talking about someone who, in a game against the Red Sox and against Tampa Bay, 2 separate times, we didn't see a 3-ball count till the 6th inning. Like we're talking about someone who, like, with this, I guess, limited repertoire already, has been hyper effective at the big league level, and now he's got Matt Blake. I mean, not like, and that's what people said. Like, not a lot of guys. Like, you have to have the feel for it, and that's really important. You have to be able to throw it with your arm motion. You got to figure out, like, which way you're turning over. But a splitter in particular for him would be, like, outrageous, yo.
I think I'm hoping for the splitter, happy with a changeup too. Splitter is because it's platoon neutral, and his results last year, he was actually better against lefties and righties results-wise. And I think the reason for that is because of how a four-seamer works. Riding at the top of the zone, that's just more effective against lefties as a put-away pitch. But you did see those long counts against both lefties and righties where they could just spoil, and the changeup fixes some of that issue. And if it's a splitter, you can throw it against righties and lefties. And you can legit just spam a splitter on 2 strike counts and just say, it's 0-2, splitter. And if you don't swing at it, cool, something else. We'll throw something else, or we'll throw a splitter again. And I think in the case of Cam Schlittler, I mean, I don't know if people are truly aware of, like, the upside here. When we look at Stuff Plus, guys who threw at least 70 innings as starting pitchers this past year, it's Hunter Green, Yuri Perez, Garrett Crochet, Tarek Skubal. Only 4 guys with a higher Stuff Plus than him. And those guys are not... To call them stuff monsters kind of feels like underselling it. These guys are freaks. Hunter Green's a freak. Yuri Perez is a freak. Garrett Crochet is a freak. Tarek Skubal is a freak. He's in the category with Christopher Sanchez, Zach Wheeler, Jacob deGrom, Spencer Schwellenbach, who I know isn't like a big sexy name, but I think he's really damn good, and he's got a big mix. I kind of look at, like, Jack Leiter's kick changeup and think that's something that Schlittler can implement. It's actually not a really refined changeup, but it had really good results because if you look at his pitch chart and pitch plot, same issue. Close the changeup, and he's got nothing else that goes down and away to left-handed batters. It's a pretty hard changeup. It doesn't have a ton of vertical separation it does have a good amount of vertical separation. I apologize. It doesn't have a big velocity separation, but it's got the movement, it drops, it's got the action you're looking for, and because of that, it's very effective. And I think with Schlittler, he got so good at not relying on the four-seamer by postseason time. It was, hey, I can throw the sinker. He actually threw his four-seamer, I think, like 40-ish% in the postseason. He upped the sinker usage, upped the cutter usage. You throw a changeup in that mix, you got 5 pitches you can rely upon if you throw the curveball onto that as well. He also has 2 cutter shapes, so it's 5 pitches, but really it's 6 shapes. That is a pitcher who has the stuff, the mix, and hopefully at some point the command consistently on a start-to-start basis where, yeah, that's an ace. When we talk about, like, the checkbox for me, raw stuff, pitch mix, and command. You check those 3 boxes, you're an ace. And very rare that's not an ace, right?
Right. And I want to say he was working on the splitter last spring. Yes. That was something that he was trying to get in there. He said he's naturally a supinator, so he was having a tough time kind of pronating that pitch down on the splitter side. So I think it could be changeup, but I'm with you, Ryan. I'm hoping for splitter.
Yeah, I definitely think, like, I look at his metrics right now, and it's like he's already really close to being a really good pitcher. Like, you saw it. You saw a progression as he pitched throughout this past season. He went from Double-A to, by the postseason, he was our best pitcher. Like, if that guy, if he's gonna progress, continue progressing at this rate next year, he's probably gonna improve the command. He's probably gonna improve the stuff. Then, like, this guy's gonna be really good by next season. And this pitch is the key to unlocking that extra level of dominance. And I definitely think, like you said, he tried to move off the four-seamer a little bit in the postseason just to get guys off of it. I think the changeup or splitter, whatever it is the perfect pitch for that. Because then he's got 98, 99, and you just can't sit on it anymore if you have another pitch that can just trick you like that.
Yeah, and again, the guy has insane outlier velocity, and he doesn't. The sinker kind of proved it. It's not a matter of getting elite pitch shapes. It's just a matter about getting different looks. It's just about the shapes being different from other pitches in his repertoire. It's just that. It's just as and that's baseball mentioned. It's just looking at that pitch plot and going, hey, where are we not right now? And we just got to find something that gets there. And it doesn't have to be great. It can be the most mediocre, decent, not great changeup on the planet, and it's going to be an effective pitch because it's there, because it is a weapon. The year of the mix has taught, I think, a lot of people in the baseball world that an average pitch is still an additional pitch to your repertoire. You'd rather have 3 great pitches and an average pitch than 3 great pitches, just because at this point the average pitch gives you a little more deception.
I wouldn't be surprised if we look back this time next year, if he starts throwing one of these pitches, if he's comfortable enough to add it full time. If we look back this time and we see, you look at the changeup or split or whatever it is, and you see the results aren't good with it, but the fastball results might get better because of it, and that's all it's going to come down to. It's literally about everything being cohesive. It's going to be one pitcher getting guys off of the fastball will make him better. He'll be able to get more whiffs high in the strike zone. He'll be able to do more, move the fastball around more if he has that threat, just the threat of it.
Yeah. The show me part of it, right? Like obviously, like if like you said, like cohesiveness. Like if you could use it to throw off the timing and make the fast more effective, good, do it.
I also want to kind of wrap up the Schlittler conversation by kind of putting everybody here on the spot. If you were to rank Cam Schlittler among starting pitchers going into 2026, where are your? You don't have to give me an exact number. I think that's not really particularly a good way to do rankings. You should kind of give a range, I think. Give me a range where you're putting Cam Schlittler. Do you want me to start? Because I can kind of buy you guys some time here.
Wait, before you start, I have a question. Is this like projecting where we think he'll end up next year? Or
yes. Yes.
Okay. So we're projecting what he'll be at the end of next year.
Right, because you're essentially saying like, hey, his value, he's going to end up being this kind of pitcher. So going into like for the 2026 season, essentially, what do you think is going to be? So that's kind of how I viewed it. I don't know if that is different from what, but I think it's similar enough.
I just want to double check because I have my answer. And That's Baseball has his answer too. So I think, I almost want to place odds on who has him at the highest range. I feel
like I'm going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be too low or like right in the middle.
Yeah.
I said top 30, top 25, that range for where I think he gets to, because the stuff again. There are just not, like, the guys I listed, Green, Perez, Crochet, Skubal, Sanchez, Schlittler, Rasmussen's here, but if he had more volume, he'd be a lock for top 20, top 25 rankings. Wheeler, Fried, DeGrom. No, you cannot argue that any of these guys on a per rate basis are not a top 20 starter in baseball. You cannot make that argument. So I'm going to put Schlittler in that top 25. I'm going to dink him a little bit, say top 25 to 30.
Yeah, I think I'm in the similar range. I was just like looking at the pitching leaderboards for this past year. I think top 30, the 30th ranked starting pitcher was 3.1 FWAR, and I definitely think that's within Schlittler's reasonable outcomes for next season. Obviously, it's going to depend a lot on volume. Is going to be able to stay healthy? This guy's added a ton of velocity over the last couple of years. So if he's able to stay healthy and he's able to continue progressing as a pitcher, I definitely think he's at least a 3-WAR player with a astronomical ceiling.
See, this is why I asked the question to you guys beforehand, because I think right now I have him in that top 30 range. I think by the end of next year, I think he'll be slightly better than top 25. And I'm tempted, here we go. If he figures out his off speed pitches, I feel like what the projection is. Because if we get the off speed, either splitter or changeup, I would say top 20. But I think Price, I'll go top 20. By the end of next year, I'll go top 20 pitcher. And again, projecting wise, right now, probably closer to top 30. But by the end of next year, we're talking about him as a top 20 pitcher.
Yeah, I think again, when we talk about kind of looking forward at pitchers, if we end up missing on this and he's worse than that, I'm going to be fine with how I looked at this. This guy has outlier stuff. I'm going to put it if I said Yuri Perez is going to be a top 25 starter next year if healthy, and he wasn't, and he was healthy. Mm-hmm. I'm not mad at myself for that at all. I look at that and go, oh, well, shit happens. It is what it is. Never gonna. I think looking at stuff and looking at the strikeout stuff, that's way more important than ERA or even pedigree. I'd even argue. I think pedigree is a little bit overrated in this regard. But as we kind of shift into the final topic here, it's regarding
hang on. Can I get one more note in on Schlittler? I want to ask you guys a question.
Yes.
If you could improve, if you could do one of two things with Schlittler in the next for next season. Would you improve his command or add that off-speed pitch? If you could only choose one.
I'm adding the off-speed pitch.
You're adding the off-speed. You'd take what was his walk rate this year? You would take a 10% walk rate again if he has the off-speed pitch?
I'd take it because a good off-speed pitch is the strikeouts are going to go even higher. So I'd I'm okay with and I know Ryan hates walks. This question was more geared for Ryan than it was for me.
I think I'm taking the command, and it's not just the walks. So look at his first 5 MLB starts. Location plus is 91. ERA 4.38. FIP 5.93. This was the struggle Schlittler starts, the starts where he's hanging a cutter and giving up a home run in the first inning every time. Every inning is a battle. You're shocked he's only given up 2 runs through 5 innings. You're stunned. You're stunned at it. And then the last 9 starts, 101 location plus, so slightly above average, not elite, but above average command. ERA of 2.23, FIP of 2.62, strikeout to walk percentage, it is a whopping 21.2%. So he was an ace. Once the command, when the command was good, not great, good, he was an ace.
Okay, so what do you think is the real him though? The first part with the command is 91 or the 101? Like what is closer to him? Like
I think like the final number was a location plus of 98. I'd say that's currently the real him. If he's a league average locator of his stuff, because it's so good, he'll get whiffs.
Okay,
he'll get whiffs.
So
I mean, he was a 50% four-seam usage guy for the season, and his fastball had like a 27% whiff. There are not a lot of 50% one fastball shape guys in this league anymore. Garrett Cole, when he was pitching in 24, was no longer that. Even in 23, he stopped doing that. I mean, is there a guy I'm missing who's like he throws this one fastball shape 50% of the time or more and is a dominant starting pitcher in this league? I think the only examples of this are, I think DeGrom was close and it was 46%. Wu was 47%. Ryan was 51%. Peralta's 53.5%. I don't know if I called Peralta like dominant. Like I wouldn't consider him dominant. I think he's good, but not dominant, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm underrating him.
I think he's more of a number 2 than an ace.
Yeah, so like DeGrom's the closest probably. No, Woo's the closest thing to it. Woo's the closest thing to this is my one fastball shape that I throw almost 50% of the time, and Brian Wu that's an outlier, and that's not even 50% of the time. Cam Schlittler was a 55% four-seam usage guy, and his four-seamer had a 27.8% whiff rate. That is how freakishly good that fastball is. With reliable command of that pitch on a start-to-start basis and a repertoire he feels more comfortable throwing, even if he doesn't have the changeup, that is, I think, a number 2 starter at minimum. Right there at minimum. That's how I view it. But I do think it'll be interesting to see how that works in 2026.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would take the command first and then hopefully add a changeup somewhere along the line. Like, I look at him, I'm like, if you get this walk, he's a 10% walk guy this past year. If you get this walk rate down to 8-7%, and then you also improve his command within the zone slightly, he's already within the top 30 pitchers. And then you add if you add off-speed pitch on top of that, that's top 15 possibly. Like, oh, the ceiling is limitless with this guy. And you brought up Garrett Cole. He could be like, it's such an easy comparison to make because he's already like he's learning under Garrett Cole right now. He has the young Garrett Cole stuff. Like, it's impossible not to get giddy thinking about the possibilities here.
It should be noted, Garrett Cole never really figured out that changeup. He actually started to get it in 21 with the tack, and then lost the tack, lost it. Started to get it a little bit towards the end of the World Series, and then tears his UCL. So anytime Garrett Cole starts to find his changeup, the baseball gods just realize it's broken. It's like, no chance. Can't let that happen. Got to do something immediately. Let's step in and fix that. But with Cam Schlittler, the secondaries, because the command thing for me is the secondaries too. It's like if the cutter is located well, the shape's gross. The curveball, good shape. The sinker, the shape isn't good, but the results were good because it's 97.5. Like, that is stupid. And the sweeper in this as well, he doesn't feel comfortable throwing a sweeper, but if he ever felt comfortable throwing it, that's a different shape. It's a different shape from the rest of his repertoire. It moves more laterally than the cutter. I kind of just look at this and go, I think with better command, he would be a 45% fastball four-seam guy, and that version of Cam Schlittler is I'm going to say it's the best pitcher on the Yankees, and it's a top 10 pitcher on the planet. From August until the end of the Yankee season, Cam Schlittler was the best pitcher on the New York Yankees. And that was because he got better doing that.
I definitely think when the first month he was up or so, like you watch the games, he had a lot of games where I don't know if it was nerves or I don't know if it was something mechanical, but he was missing four-seamer, he was missing too high, and then the cutter, he was missing everything up. And he was hanging it over the plate a lot, and you could tell, like, he has the stuff, but he hasn't put it together. But then, like, within 2 months, he puts everything all together. And it's like, get this guy a whole year up here. Let's see what he could do.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Is there any final things we want to touch on with Cam Schlittler before we move on? Alrighty, so we're going to move on. We're going to talk about, I think we're just going to kind of keep this to just Dax Kilby for the top 10 prospect ranking because he's the guy who has the most helium to him. Baseball America dropped their top 10 prospect rankings for the New York Yankees, and Dax Kilby, the 2025, not 2024, 2025 first-round pick, so just selected a few months ago out of high school, was ranked number 3 in their system, and because he's behind George Lombard Jr. and Elmer Rodriguez, that is Baseball America essentially telling you, hey, we think he's a bubble top 100 prospect straight out of the draft as a guy who was selected outside of the top 30. So Dax Kilby had a really strong single-A showing. It was only 18 games, but the contact rates were elite. The batted ball data, it was really good contact quantity and contact quality, which is a rare combination for guys this young. He's only 19 years old. I'm going to say this right now. Dax Kilby is a top 100 prospect. Dax Kilby will end up being a top 50 prospect by May, June. He's that good. He's that talented. I've never kind of been the guy who tries to be like higher on these newer kids and put some crazy expectation on. And I'm not going to put some star expectation on Kilby, but he's got all the makings of a star prospect for sure. It is pretty ridiculous that he can do what he does from a contact quantity and quality standpoint. Chris, we'll start with you. Why do you think Baseball America and the prospect world has started to catch on with Kilby so quickly?
I mean, you said it, like contact quality and quantity, both check boxes, and like obviously like coming straight from high school, he's playing with guys like 2-3 years older than him already, and proven to be really, really effective. I think a lot of people didn't think that the power would play the way it is in terms of like hard hit rate, and he's kind of shown that off. I mean, he's a guy, Ryan, that you and I have talked about. He's going to be the top prospect in the Yankees farm at some point, and it's probably going to be after the graduation of guys like Lombard. But like that's kind of the direction we're heading. I'm really excited about him. Obviously, like excited for him to kind of start his graduation up so we can get like more data on him. But, I mean, he's checked every box right now and has been far better than you could have hoped for a kid literally going from facing high school pitching to professional pitching. Again, no college years, no buffer years, just straight to draft to the minors. So it's been exciting, and I don't want to put, like, the crazy expectations on him. I do know that there's going to be that natural, like, middle infielder, contact guy. You're going to get some of the ridiculous conversations here over the next, probably year or two. But, he's coming along much quicker than I even would have thought if they drafted him, and I'll kind of leave it at that.
I definitely think when you look at an 18-year-old coming right out of high school, the fact that he hit 350 in A-ball, like, obviously it's BABIP inflated, but he didn't strike out very much facing pro guys. He took his walks, and it's very limited sample size. He's very young. We don't really know. Next year is going to be a big indicator of where he actually is once we actually get a bigger sample. But the hit tool coming along so quickly in that small sample is probably the most important thing that you wanted to see from him. Because this guy, he's 18 years old, just turned 19 this past month. He's listed at 6'2", 190, and hopefully you can grow that into more of a powerful hitter in the next few years. So I'm not really, his power numbers aren't there. He had 0 homers this year. But that maybe the Yankees like his frame, how I expected to fill out a little bit, and maybe that's something that we can look for in the next couple of years as he rises through the minors. And all I know from him, I haven't seen him play in person, obviously, but the video I've seen from him, his follow-through looks just like Ben Rice's. So if you can turn this guy into Ben Rice light, who can play up the middle. I don't know if he projects. I don't think he's going to play shortstop for us, right? He's going to play.
He can play short. They didn't think he has the athleticism or the arm talent too. I'm holding off on it just because he's still 18, 19 now. So I don't know how he's going to develop athletically. But no, a lot of people think he'll end up moving off of short. Now obviously there's some conversations of can he even play second? Maybe a corner guy rather than a middle guy.
He's incredibly fast. So maybe there's a route to him to play center field in the future. If this guy's a center field. If he's 50 to 60% of Ben Rice's power and has a good hit tool and plays center field and has that speed, that's an incredible player. So I'm excited for the ceiling. I definitely want to see more. I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. He's still very young. He has 81 plate appearances at A-ball. I definitely think we need to calm down. But if the evaluators, the guys who do this for a living, are already putting him up into that top 3 prospect on the Yankees range, they're seeing something they like. So I definitely think it's worth keeping an eye on this next season.
You mentioned the ceiling. I'm also intrigued by the floor. I think the hit tool also raises the floor a little bit, and that I think also excites me. I mean, we've seen so many of these Yankee prospects. It's been so much like boom or bust, right? It's like, you hear years of like, oh, Spencer Jones, he could be great or he could be unplayable, and it's nice to for in their farm for a couple of the next group to be guys who have pretty decent floors too, as well as the ceiling. So just to add to it.
I also want to kind of note here, Dax Kilby, when I spoke to him, mentioned Christian Yelich as someone that he's modeled his game after, and Yelich 6'3", 203, Kilby listed, I think, at 6'2", under 200 pounds, but 19 years old. There is time for him to fill out that frame. Yelich is very much that, throughout his career, he was pretty good contact quality in terms of average exit velocity, but had to learn how to at least get the ball in the air a little bit more. But even with high ground ball rates, he was a really damn good hitter. I think we could see, I think like Miami, Christian Yelich is kind of what I kind of hope for here. That is that good, not dominant hitter, not the Brewers version where he was winning MVPs and probably should have gone back to back if he stayed healthy in that 19 year, I think it was. Yes, 19. Yes. Those Miami years, though, like Yelich was a beast offensively. Yeah. He wasn't a star, but he was a beast. He was pretty good. High average, high on base, low strikeout rate. I think that's kind of what Dax Kilby's kind of. That's like what the ideal MLB. Like if things go right, it's a 120-ish WRC plus hitter who's more centered on average on base with good enough power.
Yeah. Hey, maybe even play him in left field. Be like our generation's version of Gardner. That'd be pretty sick. But like I'm looking at his batted ball right now. He's high ground ball. He is very comparable to Yelich. He pulls a little bit more than Yelich. He's high ground ball, high line drive, low fly ball. So I don't expect the home runs to just come in out of nowhere. But if he could be a gap to gap doubles triples guy, then that's enough power production as long as he keeps the hit tool up and he gets on base.
It's another kind of example I'd like to throw out is like if DJ LeMahieu was left-handed, where DJ LeMahieu also had good exit velocity numbers, but the other contact quality metrics lagged behind because he didn't hit the ball in the air enough for it to translate into high home run totals year in and year out. But I think if LeMahieu stayed healthy, I think 2022 showed that if he stayed healthy throughout his contract, he would have been a better player for the Yankees. I don't believe that the juice balls were the only reason why he was good at baseball. I do think that he's down with the Rockies, that 22 year, that kind of approach of I hit the ball hard, I don't hit the ball in the air a lot, but I still hit the ball hard, can work, especially when we talk about Kilby, who's a much better athlete than I think LeMahieu ever was as well. Yeah,
that's what I was going to bring up. I mean, like that. I think Baseball America in their article said like he's the best athlete in the Yankees organization speed-wise. So, I mean, if you get a fast DJ LeMahieu, like that's a hell of a player right there. So.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, again, very far away from the big leagues. Not really close, but I would put him in high A. He started in single A. I know it was 18 games, but I would put him in high A. I would challenge him. Single A was a joke to him, and he's facing a lot of guys who played in 4 years at college. But single A was a joke to him. Go put him in high A. Even if you have to spend the whole year there struggling and learning how to play there, that's fine with me. I don't think this has to be a scenario where you're trying to find the next 20-year-old rookie phenom. I think you just have to make sure you produce a good ball player. And I think that's got to be the Yankees' priority. That's always I don't really believe in you've got to push guys while they're young only and try and like find. You're not going to find a superstar in the draft most likely, especially where the Yankees draft. It's very hard to find the next Hall of Famer with the 34th, 5th, something overall pick. But you can find some pretty good players, and the Yankees have done a good job at that. Hopefully, Kilby is another name on that list of better draft picks for the Yankees over the last few years. Guys, any final notes on Kilby or just anything we talked about in general?
I mean, I would love to see Kilby in the spring breakout game this year.
I would too. I will say Spencer Jones in that spring breakout game in 24 was probably the biggest fake out of all time. I thought that was the start of just, he's going to be a big leaguer by the end of the year.
He was he played all throughout that spring, didn't he? And then
yes,
he had that string. He had the string of like I think it was like 80 pitches in a row without 80 swings without a whiff or something ridiculous, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, he fixed the whiff problem. This is going to be so great." And then he struck out 38% of the time that season. Yeah. So I was like,
That was an all-time. That spring breakout game was insane, man. That was awesome. I'm so upset they didn't have it with StatCast this past year. The Yankees have played two pretty good games. They lost the second one against the Orioles, but they got walked off. It was a good baseball game, and that was secretly the breakout of LaGrange. Like, that was when LaGrange kind of announced himself on the scene. I was there. He hit 104 on the stadium gun. It was pretty crazy. But, yeah, man. Chris, is there any final thoughts you have?
No, sir.
All righty. Well, Look, we appreciate you guys sticking through to the end of this podcast. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Again, turn on that notification bell to get notifications on our next uploads. You guys can also check out our social media pages. That's Fireside Yankees on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and again, this YouTube page. Links to our personal work will be in the descriptions below, and that's baseball. Chris, obviously, if you're a college football fan, you kind of need to know what's going on with Chris and what he's doing, because Chris is on an all-time run right. He's on his 2018 LeBron run right now with the Ohio and Michigan rivalry. Yeah. And I know it's not baseball season in terms of regular season action, but I think the off season is where you can get creative with a lot of video content because you don't have to worry about it aging poorly. I don't know how and that baseball, if that's accurate, but I kind of always feel like that's a good time to do that.
Yeah, I've got a big Angels project coming out probably sometime next week. So
I'm really excited for that, and the people should be ready for that.
Yeah, I can't wait. I get so mad in that video. I hate Artie Moreno. I hate him with a passion.
The Angels, I think, are the most frustrating franchise in baseball because they actually have money, unlike the Pirates.
They've been in the top half of the league in payroll in the last 15 years, every single year. And they have the longest playoff drought. They have the longest playoff drought in MLB. They had Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and Albert Pujols on one team, and they won 76 games. This team is, it's so incompetent, top to bottom, everything.
You can make a real argument that 3 of the 4 best players of the 21st century played for the Angels.
Yeah, it could have been Judge if he got the offer. Could have been 4 out of 4.
It would be really funny if Aaron. Yeah, that would have been really funny. But they've ended up they've drafted one of them, signed the other out of Japan, and then signed the other in free agency, and that wasn't a good contract. But is what it is. Anywho, but if you guys want to check out our personal work again, that'll be in the link in the description below. We appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.
Perfect.